Hey guys, Schnagglepop here, and this is my new web series, Tales of an Insomniac, which I plan to do whenever I can't sleep, because it gives me something to do. Tonight, my first ever episode is going to be about something very important to me, and very important to members of all of the communities I'm part of, chronic illness. Now, a lot of you that know me know that I suffer from chronic illnesses, but some of you don't know what that means. Sorry, Schnag. What's a chronic illness? I'll tell you. So, the Wikipedia definition of a chronic illness is a human health condition that is persistent or otherwise long-lasting in its effects, or a disease that comes with time. I have 14 of these horrible things. And yes, I plan to list them. Does she have to? So, for those of you who don't want to know, feel free to skip. Thank God. So, from the top, I have EDS, which is Ehlers-danlos syndrome, CCD, which is cleidocranial dysplasia, spondylitis, depending where you're from, scoliosis, temporomandibular joint dysfunction, pernicious anemia, a fused spine and a fused pelvis, which both cause me pain, lumbar lordosis, which is caused by the fused spine, anxiety and depression, transient migraine syndrome, endometriosis, pulmonary embolisms that come every now and again. I have had 3 so far in the past 2 years, and pleurisy, which also comes very regularly. Because of these chronic illnesses, I have to take 30 tablets a day, and 4 times a day I take 10 ml of a liquid called oxycodone. 30! 30! Yep, 30. These medications help with a variety of symptoms, but today we are going to focus on Ehlers-danlos syndrome. I think you meant syndromes. She's right, you meant syndromes. I've been diagnosed with Ehlers-danlos syndrome since I was 16. I am now 25, nearly 26, so nearly 10 years I've had this diagnosis. However, I've had the condition my entire life. Unfortunately, when I was younger, it wasn't a very well-known condition, and because of this, a lot of doctors told me the usual spiel. Growing pains. You're imagining it. There's nothing wrong with you. You'll grow out of it. Everything like that. Now, that's not the doctor's fault. They didn't know about the condition. It was rare. I don't blame them. Go on. Try it. You know you want to. Maybe a little bit. Unfortunately, because it was left for so long, I am now a full-time wheelchair user. Sometimes I can use crutches, but that's only when my pain is very well managed, and that is nowhere near as often as I'd like. To get round to the reason I am actually doing this video, today a very important person who is very close to me asked me while I was taking my medication, "So which one is this for again?" What? So remind me, what's this one for again? And it made me realise that even the people closest to me don't actually know a lot about my conditions, or not as much as I'd like anyway. There are 13 subtypes of Ehlers-danlos syndrome. I have type 3, which is the hypermobility type, also known as HEDS, which stands for hypermobility Ehlers-danlos syndrome. No, you don't say. And the way they test for type 3 EDS is through a thing called the Baton score, which is a 9-point system. I score 8 out of 9 on the Baton scale, and that is the top end of severe hypermobility. The only thing I can't do is touch the floor whilst standing, and that's because of my fused spine. Go on, try it. You know you want to. So, hypermobility type EDS affects between 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 15,000 people, which it is quite common. It actually may be even more common than we think, because there are so many people walking around with EDS who don't know they have EDS. That's because there are still a lot of doctors who are undereducated on the subject. I was part of a medical study which helped medical students who were already doctors, who wanted to become specialist doctors, to become more specialised in their field. And their job was to diagnose me with a certain amount of criteria written on the wall with information about me, so my age, some of my symptoms, etc. And they had to diagnose me. And those who diagnosed me correctly with EDS got to pass. Those who didn't failed. It was quite a mean test, to be fair, but there we go. And I am down to take part in much more of these medical trials as they come up. Anything to raise awareness. Like I say, a lot of you who are my friends and family, and even those who don't know me who are watching this, don't realise just how many symptoms there are for Ehlers-danlos syndrome. So I'm going to list my symptoms for you guys. It's quite an extensive list, so if you want to skip, that's fine, don't worry. Thank God. Remembering that these symptoms don't affect everybody with EDS, nor is this the full list of symptoms, in no order really. Start with joint hypermobility, which is the obvious one. It's a hypermobility syndrome, we're bound to be hypermobile. For example, no party tricks. Sorry. Because of this, I get severe pain. When people think of pain on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst pain imaginable, 10 being the worst pain imaginable, they think of this excruciating pain when they get to 10. I live at a 7. And I know that sounds extreme, but it's true. There are days when I am at 10 and I can't get out of bed. I can't move. I can't go to the bathroom. It's extreme. I've then had levels of pain where I've been hospitalised, where it's even worse. It goes off the chart. And yet there are still doctors and nurses who think that because they can't see our illness, it doesn't show up on x-rays, it doesn't show up in DNA scans, it only shows up in the specific tests like the Baton score. And because of this, a lot of doctors and nurses assume we are drug seekers.
Give me the drugs. The drugs.
If I could go a day without my medication, I would. I have. And let me tell you, they are the worst days. When I run out of medication, it's insanely painful. Another fun one, lactation. I haven't breastfed in just under 3 years. My little boy is 3. I stopped breastfeeding him at 4 weeks because of medication issues. So, yeah, this started this year. No one knows why yet. We get loose, unstable joints. My joints, especially my shoulders, dislocate on a daily basis. We get skin that bruises easily. The great thing is about it, it's extremely soft. Oh, and this is my EDS zebra. I know you can't see that properly, but digestive complications, such as people can't eat. Like, a lot of us are on feeding tubes. Luckily, I haven't gotten that far yet. For me, I can't tolerate gluten. I struggle tolerating milk. I also get severe constipation or diarrhea, depending on the day. I could get both in one day. It just depends. Memory loss, which I mentioned earlier. Swollen joints, which is a major one for me. My worst ones for that are my knees. My knees will swell to a couple of times their size, and they won't go in jeans. It's that bad. Sometimes I have to wear leggings or pyjama pants because I can't get physically into my jeans. The same with my hips. I used to be a size 10. Yes, I've put on weight, but I actually no longer fit in size 14 jeans, even though I'm a 14 everywhere else, because my hips get that swollen that if I chance wearing size 14 jeans, then if I have an attack where my joints swell, I am in agony. I'm on tonight, you know my hips don't lie, na 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 na. Fragile skin, which means that we tear. I have a scar here from an operation that's meant to be this big, and it actually goes from here to there because it's split. My C-section scar did the same. My stitches split because it was that fragile. They had to use extra stitches on the internal organs when I had my cesarean with my son. Every 3 years, I get tested for heart valve issues because the valves in a person with HEDS can stretch, because that meant that the day I had my son, I not only had an ultrasound on my stomach, but I had an ultrasound on my chest to make sure I would actually survive having a baby, which was unfortunately not very likely. When I was pregnant, I got given a 3% chance of survival. That's 1, 2, 3, because I was that high a risk in my pregnancy. I was constantly monitored. Every time I got the slightest twinge of pain in my stomach area, I had to go in and have ultrasounds, heart scans, you name it, I had to have it. All the tests that you can imagine I got given, just in case. Poke, 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 poke. At my 20-week scan, I came this close to punching my consultant, because he suggested at my 20-week scan, after I just found out I was having my baby boy, that I should have an abortion. Should have punched him. Agreed. Really should have punched him. And understandably, I got very upset with him and switched consultants there and then, because I couldn't have somebody who didn't want to see my pregnancy succeed helping me through my pregnancy. That just couldn't happen. The final issue of mine that I had, they don't know whether it was my medication, my Ehlers-danlos, or any of the other syndromes that I'd mentioned, but I was fainting. I stopped this April, thank God, because I was just passing out and no one knew why. And the worst one of it, I passed out for 2 hours straight. I knocked myself out unconscious by landing on my boot by falling off my bed. Like I said before, I take up to 30 tablets, sometimes more if I've got an illness, on top of my other conditions, per day. That includes 9 different medications that are tablets and 1 liquid.
Give me the drugs.
Unfortunately, all of these tablets have side effects. So my transient migraine syndrome will never go away unless I stop my pain medication. But if I stop my pain medication, I will be in severe amounts of pain anyway.
Ah!
So I'm on more medication to counteract that medication. All of my tablets cause issues with stomach lining, so I am on 2 different tablets to protect my stomach lining. The tablets I am on: propranolol, prochlorperazine, paracetamol, tramadol, oxycodone, ranitidine, rivaroxaban, senna, omeprazole, and mirtazapine. So, a fact about us Ehlers-danlos syndrome warriors: 1, we call ourselves warriors. 2, we call ourselves zebras. Now, the reason we call ourselves zebras is because doctors, when they are learning in medical school, are told when they hear hooves, look for horses. Which essentially means when you see the most obvious symptom, look for the most obvious problem. Whereas if an EDS patient comes in with chest pains, you need to look for the rare. You need to look for the rarest stuff. Yes, cross off all the common stuff if you have to first, but look for the rare. So I go in, I'm 25 years old, I use a wheelchair, I am on many medications that can cause problems with clotting, but no one thought to check for clots. I was in hospital for 3 days, unable to breathe. I had to have oxygen constantly because my blood oxygen levels were so low. And it wasn't until the very last day I got a CT scan, and they checked my chest and I got sent home before the results were in. I got a phone call halfway through Monday morning telling me to get straight back to the hospital because I had severe blood clots on my lungs, and if I didn't take the medication, there was a big chance I could die. Ding dong, the witch is dead, witch oh witch, the wicked witch. Now, unfortunately, a junior doctor, and junior doctors are amazing. You guys are, to be fair, most junior doctors have actually helped me gain diagnoses because they've been more up to date with their medical information. Unfortunately, this one day, I got one that couldn't read my scan properly, and so I could have died. And there have been too many times in my 25 years that I have very nearly died. Not all of them due to doctors, sometimes due to my own stubbornness of not going into hospital, sometimes due to the GP, sometimes due to taking the wrong advice. Oh, I do have other side effects too. Side effects that I get from my medications include itching, which is why you may see me itch in this video. Migraines, as I've mentioned. The blood thinning medication makes my periods worse, which is not good since I've got endometriosis already. So that causes my very, very, very heavy bleeds to get even heavier, which causes me to need hospitalization every time I get my monthlies. Ew, we don't need to know everything. Yay. My anti-sickness sometimes has the side effect of making me not want to eat. Not because I feel nauseous, but just because I have a lack of appetite, complete lack, and if I eat, I throw it back up, even with the anti-sickness. Paracetamol destroyed my liver, so I had to stop it for a long time before I was allowed back on it, and now I'm on a much lesser dose, because obviously my liver couldn't take it. Yeah, don't drink on paracetamol, it's not a good plan. And of course, there are a couple of symptoms that, because of my medication, I no longer get. I have pernicious anemia, as mentioned, which may or may not be caused by my EDS, we don't know. But because of that, I am on gabapentin, which makes no sense to some people. Those two meds, that med and that condition, don't go hand in hand. The reason for it is I get severe muscle tremors, which means my arms, my legs shake violently, to the point that I can't walk, even with crutches, because I can't control my limbs. My ex-partner couldn't share a bed with me because my tremors were that bad, they kept him up at night. I shook violently all over, even through my sleep. It didn't matter. My body was out of control and I couldn't control it, and it was because I had no B12. Literally zero. That was another time I almost died. Oh well. That one was an example of my stubbornness. I was exhausted. Even if I was sleeping most of the time, but I was working 2 jobs, so when I wasn't sleeping, I was working, and I refused to give up those jobs, and because of that, I assumed my tiredness was due to work, and it wasn't. It was due to the fact that my B12 was at fatal levels, and I had to have my loading doses as soon as the doctor read my bloods. He said, go and get your loading doses now. EDS isn't all bad. I make it sound like an evil condition, and it does have hundreds of downsides. But, as you can probably guess, there is some fun to flexibility. There's party tricks you can do. There's other uses for flexibility. Dude, there's children watching. I have a very good vocal range, which may be due to the fact that I could have overly flexible vocal cords. I have missing pieces, which are always fun to point out. For example, here, there is a massive hole in my shoulder. That one's always fun. Going as fast as I physically can in my wheelchair always freaks people out, especially when I have my electric wheelchair. Unfortunately, it's broken at the moment. But when I have my electric wheelchair, it's great. I can razz, and my son loves it. Obviously, we both have helmets on if he's on my knee, but he loves it. I miss that wheelchair, something rotten, because it is destroyed at the moment, and I can't afford a new one. There are tons of gymnastics who are EDS sufferers. A lot of us, I can't physically, but a lot of us who have had the training can do gymnastics, ballet, any form of dance. I actually used to be a dance student, well, musical theatre student, and I don't speak for everybody saying this, but my condition has moulded me as a person. I believe that I wouldn't be the person I am without this condition, or without any of my conditions. Yes, they cause me pain. They cause me excruciating pain, but they make me more humble. They make me respect other people's lives and respect what they are going through. It makes me try to be empathetic with everybody. Everybody's got a story. Yesterday, there was a man who was a tourist, and the country he came from, you could pay for the bus with card. He only had his bank card and it wasn't contactless. So I paid his bus fare. I don't know that man. He said thank you and walked to the back of the bus. I was in my wheelchair. I stayed at the front. We didn't chat other than that. The bus driver looked at me like I was insane. And he said, why did you pay a man's fare that you didn't know? And I just said, he can pay it forward one day. And as well as my EDS, I thank my parents for that. They instilled in me to be a generous and a nice and a giving person. But a lot of my condition has moulded me. 16 years going through pain, without medication, without help, without using a wheelchair, which I desperately needed, taught me to be strong. And I am a strong person. And I love my condition for doing that to me. And I really, really hope that this video touches just one person. There's so many things to be learned about EDS. I will put a link in the comments to the Ehlers-danlos website. You can raise money for it any way you want. A few years ago, I shaved off all my hair. My hair was down to here. I donated all my hair to the Little Princess Trust. And I donated all the money I earned to the Ehlers-danlos Trust. I know this video is long, and if you got this far into it, I thank you immensely. Yay, thank you so much! You're awesome for listening. Thank you guys! Honestly, the editing may be rubbish. I've never done a video like this, but there will hopefully be more in the future. Sorry it was so long, guys. Thank you, zebras, if you're listening. Thank you, non-zebras, for listening too. And if you or anybody else in your family feels like they've been affected by EDS in any way, or any of the other conditions I listed at the start, feel free to send me an inbox and I will happily chat to you. Because there's nothing worse than being alone in your struggle. And anyone who needs me, I'm only a click away. See you soon for the next episode, where I'm likely going to be talking about one of my other many conditions. See you guys!